right, we got one more really awesome session with some really cool examples and visuals that you're going to check out today before we break. Ali Hayeri, as the SVP of Marketing at Mountain, he leads all product performance and content marketing efforts. He's also an adjunct lecturer at Northwestern University, teaching product marketing in the Integrated Marketing Communications graduate program. So like I said, he's going to share some really cool CTV examples, so stick around and please welcome Ali to the stage.
All right. How's everyone doing? Good? Awesome. So a pretty provocative title that we have here. Mountain is a streaming TV advertising platform. And last year we served over 1.7 million hours of B2B ads. And so we're going to dig right into that. Again, that's me. I run marketing at Mountain. I also teach product marketing at Northwestern. But more importantly, I'm your peer today. I live with the same sort of stress that you all live with. I think about demand gen all the time. I'm thinking about effective content marketing. I quarrel with sales. I mean, we all do. So I really, to the extent possible, think of me less as someone from Mountain and more as just someone who's living the same reality as all of you. So we'll talk about today, briefly, we'll talk about why CTV even makes sense for B2B brands. I think there's still some things to kind of like dispel on that front, but we'll be very quick on that. Then we're going to talk about what it's like for us as Mountain, a fellow B2B brand. How do we use CTV? How is it effective for us? So we'll share a little bit about that. But then we'll spend most of the time actually looking at real B2B creative that ran on the Mountain platform from really great B2B advertisers. And we'll use that to anchor a couple of really important points about what you need to think about when you're actually advertising on connected television. Now, in terms of the opportunity for B2B advertisers, CTV really properly has now reached a point where it really should be a cornerstone of your performance marketing strategy. I suspect everybody in the room is doing paid search, social in some manner. CTV really should be the third pillar of your strategy. And what we'll talk about today is we'll explain all the details that are requisite to kind of making you feel comfortable with it being a really important channel for you. One thing to kind of consider, it's a bizarre thing to remind a bunch of B2B marketers, but it's that you're marketing to humans. B2B buyers aren't some like humanoid robots that don't actually have personal lives. These are people who watch the same shows that you watch, and they can be reached on television as well. The reason why historically they haven't been reached with television advertising is because in the world of linear TV advertising, audience targeting is very hard. It's hard if we're going to talk about a company that sells metal. It's hard to find an audience of people who buy metal on linear TV. And I don't know what ideas you all have about the definitive TV show where people who buy metal actually tune in. But that's the obvious reason why B2B has never really thrived on linear. Also because of the fact that it's been expensive. It's expensive to advertise on linear TV. There's upfront commitments, there's a long lead time, got to get agencies involved, the actual campaign is going to be tremendously expensive. It's not the case in CTV. It's really, just to oversimplify it, it's programmatic advertising with a different ad unit. It's just a TV commercial instead of any other sort of ad unit you normally associate with programmatic. So it's affordable. And in the context of something like Mountain, like all the other performance marketing channels you use, it's pay as you go. You just turn it on, see the performance, scale up the budget, and it becomes an evergreen campaign. It's not going to be something that's going to be flighted like, again, you would probably do on like linear TV. And lastly, and this is a point that we'll kind of make a couple of times throughout this presentation, is the fact that the DNA of CTV being a digital channel enables things like measurement and attribution that are just totally important to B2B marketers. That's just, as B2B marketers, we have an expectation for attribution and measurement, and CTV sort of complies with that. Now, we drink our own champagne. I used to say we eat our own dog food, but this is like the more glamorous way of saying that. We drink our own champagne. At MNTN, being a B2B brand ourselves, our strategy really hinges on actually using CTV, not because we sell it, but because as good B2B marketers, we use every channel we could possibly derive some sort of performance out of. And it's quickly become one of the most indispensable channels for us. It's a crazy metric. A quarter of all of our website traffic is attributed to the TV ads that we run. If we've been doing our job correctly, probably a lot of you have received ads for MNTN as you've been streaming television, which hopefully that's the case. But it's just representing a pretty important component of our advertising strategy right now. And it sits nicely alongside the other channels that we use too. Like a lot of you, we're heavily reliant on paid search, heavily reliant on LinkedIn advertising, who isn't? And it really plays off of the other channels really nicely. I'd never advocate to pull money away from those channels and just invest in this. That would be negligent as a B2B marketer, but it really is a third pillar to your advertising strategy. And it's been great to see the growth of B2B brands on MNTN, the proliferation of it. It's a year-over-year increase of 125% of B2B brands really embracing MNTN as a platform. And so let's get into that. Creative is constantly cited as the biggest barrier for a lot of B2B brands to get into CTV. The idea of having a TV commercial is kind of daunting for some B2B advertisers. But really, it's far more attainable than you think. We'll talk a little bit more about that. One kind of creative consideration I do want to talk about, though, is the subject matter of your ads. I think some B2B marketers have this assumption that the ad needs to be dry and boring, or like the visual equivalent of like a white paper or a webinar, and that's just not the case. With the examples that you'll see today, you'll see compelling, some may say funny, B2B ads that are running and promoting brands, and it just completely makes sense, and it also contributes to great performance. And so, again, we'll use each ad that we're going to look at to kind of anchor into a best practice or an important consideration. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the first ad from Pluralsight.
What I loved most about Pluralsight is the fact that there are so many options. At the time, I didn't specifically know what field I wanted to go into. Pluralsight having kind of a foot in every field allowed me to test the waters and see where I wanted to go. I do my learning through Pluralsight in many different ways. Majority of it is actually on the mobile app. It's never too late to learn new skills and to grow, and everyone's journey looks different.
Great ad. Check out Pluralsight, by the way. They're a great platform for learning technical education. So, show of hands, not to be that guy, but show of hands. Who here gets asked by your sales team for case studies and testimonials? Okay, so like, for those of you at home, 100% of people raise their hand here. It's the most common thing that we get asked to produce in terms of sales enablement materials. And for obvious reasons, 68% of B2B buyers say customer testimonials are one of the most valuable things along their journey of actually making a purchase. And so Pluralsight did something really clever. They made their ad a testimonial. But it had a human touch to the whole thing. You got to see the evolution of this person's career in a pretty short amount of time. Another thing that I quickly want to touch on is this great quote from Koji Takagi. He's a good friend of mine, also just a great B2B marketing mind. One thing that he said that always stuck with me: BDRs and SDRs think in terms of months, AEs think in terms of quarters and years, B2B marketers need to be thinking in terms of decades. We're trying to build a lasting brand. And so the point here, and I suspect a lot of you kind of experience this too, is that there's kind of secondary benefits to a lot of the work that we're doing. A lot of us myopically get sucked into demand gen specifically, but there's a lot of secondary influence that comes from a lot of the marketing efforts that we actually do. And something that Koji talks about a lot is not just the influence that the campaigns have on pipeline, but also on just generalized brand awareness for Pluralsight. That's something that I can agree with too at MNTN. Just to give you a little bit of insight, When we did the CTV advertising for Mountain, it was explicitly with a demand gen goal in mind. We wanted to drive leads just as everybody else did. But we do monthly brand awareness surveying, and what we learned was that that was becoming the main channel, one of the main channels that people were just learning about the brand. Not necessarily acting, just the impressions were kind of registering with them and staying with them. And then at some future point when someone decided to convert, it was top of mind. So I guess in simple terms, like it's TV advertising doing its job. But it's just a really interesting insight. Let's take a look at another ad here. It's a great ad from Guesty. It feels like a commercial you would see on TV. I mean, what a surprise there. I think from a creative standpoint, the thing that I love about it is it adheres to a lot of the creative best practices. Just on-screen text, nice motion graphics, ends on a really impactful CTA, a very clear CTA, I should say. So great ad. From a strategic standpoint, this is where things get pretty interesting. Let's look at what Guesty was actually looking to accomplish by running ads on Mountain. I didn't need a third party. I could get a lead from my Mountain campaign, match it back to a user, then be able to really see the impact of Mountain within my CRM. So Guesty's priority in running campaigns as a B2B advertiser was attribution. They wanted to run performance campaigns that are attributable in some sort of way. And so this is a very common question that comes up is, how do you measure the impact of a TV ad when you can't click on the screen? How is that actually done? It's not as complicated as you think. So in the case of Mountain, when you go live, first thing that you do is you place 2 pixels on your website. Site-wide pixel, conversion pixel. Anybody who's done performance marketing understands the role of those 2 things. This is just another performance marketing channel, folks. And then impressions begin serving to your target audience. As website visits start pouring into your website, all of those visits are going to be evaluated. Mountain has a device graph that has over half of all households in America. Each one of those visits are evaluated to see, has that household been served a TV impression before? That's not where it ends. You don't just immediately get credit for the TV campaign when that happens. What happens after that is we then evaluate where that user just came from. So if that user just came from some other paid media source, say they clicked a search ad that brought them to your website, we defer credit to the paid search channel or any other paid media channel. But if there wasn't any sort of paid source in between that original impression being served and the site visit, then we could comfortably attribute that credit to the TV campaign. What happens from there is, again, no different than all the other performance marketing channels that you use. So whatever that user does on the site, events can be tracked, conversions can be tracked. As I mentioned with Mountain, we track form submissions. That's what a lot of B2B advertisers are usually tracking. But if you're like an e-commerce store that serves a B2B audience, then you could track, down to the order level, products purchased, looked at, so on and so forth. And just pretty granular information that's ultimately attributed back to your television campaign. So tremendously impactful here. Let's look at another one. A familiar face, actually. I think some of you know who this person is. Let's take a look.
Mountain is transforming TV advertising by focusing on performance, and we've got an amazing team of people to do it, like Seymour Roaz. Tell people what you do here at Mountain, Seymour.
Well, I'm in charge of performance. We believe TV should be bought, targeted, and measured like search or social, the other performance channels.
That sounds fast.
Yeah, way faster than traditional TV buying, and it comes with real-time reporting.
Would you say that people could see results in a flash?
Yeah, I guess. Why are you staring at me?
I thought this would be more fun. You'll always be my Barry.
You'll always be my Hal.
That hurts, Seymour.
Let's just get it out of the way. Ryan really works at Mountain. That's the most common question that I get. Ryan's our chief creative officer. A lot of the ideas start with Ryan for Mountain. The point that I want to make here from a creative standpoint is just humor. Humor works, even in the context of B2B. 57% of US consumers enjoy funny ads. I don't think I'm breaking new ground by saying anything like that. But really, my point here is that it's safe in the context of B2B. From a strategy standpoint, there's this idea of like performance brand marketing here. The point here is, as most of us are performance marketers, just by virtue of being a B2B marketer, you're also a performance marketer in a sense. And so I don't need to give you the value of attribution and measurement and all that. You get that. But if you find yourselves working with brand marketers, as I do, it's great to be able to hand over this fine-grained sort of reporting over to your brand marketing folks who aren't necessarily used to getting a ton of outcome-related information related to the creative that they're producing. And it really unlocks even more creativity when they have an understanding of what the outcomes are of these creative campaigns that they're kind of conceptualizing. So it really has a tremendous impact on brand marketing, but there's never any excuse. Brand marketing can and should be measurable to the extent possible, and in this case, it's quite measurable. Oh, and Seymour ROAS, that's just like, we have middle school humor. A couple of years ago, we sponsored Advertising Week in New York, and we sponsored the name badges, and on the reverse side of the name badges, we had everyone's name be Seymour ROAS, because we thought it was funny. And so here we're just amusing ourselves at this point with the Seymour ROAS, with Grant Gustin actually personifying Seymour. Here's another one. I like this one.
Finding the right material can be challenging. Does it have to be? Of course not. Introducing OnlineMetals.com, where the right material is just one click away. We have you buy, you receive. Your words, not ours.
Any OnlineMetals.com shoppers here? Don't be shy. No? Great ad. Checks all the boxes. Persistent URL. They show the interface. Customer testimonial. It's just a really efficient ad. That was a 15-second spot. In our world, 15s and 30s are what we're used to kind of running on our platform. But I want to talk about the strategy behind this. This is a very, very niche product. Online Metals, they sell metal in a B2B sense. And I want to go on a tangent for a second, but I promise I'll come back and make this point. So something that I get from a lot of my B2B marketing friends is they say, oh, okay, you got Ryan Reynolds, so you're marketing on easy mode. Like, you don't really need to work as hard as I do because Ryan's involved. And just assuming that we derive all of our performance by virtue of just having Ryan associated with our brand. And the answer to that is, look, I'd be lying to you if I said that it's not impactful to have Ryan associated with our brand. But the point is that, one, we run ads that don't include Ryan, that are highly efficient for us. So, we're not totally tethered to that. But more importantly, the point to make here is 1.7 million hours of B2B ads, and nearly none of them had famous people inside the ads, but they're all performant, they're all efficient, they're driving conversions for all these advertisers. How are they doing it without a celebrity involved? Well, it's because the audience targeting is incredibly key to this. Finding exactly your audience and only showing them your ad is really a huge part of the way to make this thing actually work. And Online Metals is just like the best example of this because it's such a niche audience that they're actually targeting. I looked at the audience segments that Online Metals is targeting. It's people who are in the business of purchasing heavy machinery. It's people who purchase metal. It's people who purchase all sorts of like transportation, construction equipment. This is highly, highly specific audience targeting that they're doing. And they're getting tremendous performance out of actually doing it. And so at first glance, it may seem bizarre that a company like this would be having television advertising. But again, as long as you could target these audiences efficiently, no matter what it is that they're watching, this totally works. This is an example of a brand that would have a very hard time advertising on linear TV. Because again, where are all the metal shoppers watching the same program on linear television? So very important consideration there. Here's another one from a brand I suspect, or a product I suspect a lot of you use.
Business loves revenue, which makes the 4 sweetest words a company could ask for.
Let's have a meeting.
But let's face it, scheduling meetings is hard. That's why teams use Calendly. to automate scheduling, book meetings faster, and drive more revenue.
You mean no more
Email ping pong? Nope. Calendly offers scheduling automation for your whole team and tools for inbound demand generation so you can win more business with less work. Calendly, way more than a scheduling link.
So Calendly was kind of in the opposite situation as Online Metals, whereas the metal advertiser is looking to advertise to a really niche audience. Calendly was trying to reach a broad audience. The only point that I really want to make here, outside of the fact that that's just a sharp ad, it looks beautiful, it's very efficient. They packed in a lot of product information. As a product marketer, I really loved that ad. They packed in a lot of product information in a non-overwhelming way in just 30 seconds. So I thought it was a great ad. But the point that I wanted to make here is the volume is there. We hit a huge inflection point just over a year ago where streaming TV viewership surpassed linear TV viewership. So the volume is there. Maybe 5 years ago, it didn't make sense to use CTV as a channel to get real volume, but we're totally there now. There's quite a bit of volume. There's a lot of people who are consuming TV via streaming, especially ad-supported streaming TV. That's just booming right now, especially as people are really getting squeezed by combining all of these different streaming subscriptions together. It's as expensive as cable. We've kind of landed back to where we started. So ad-supported streaming services are really doing well, which again, you stand to benefit as a CTV advertiser there. Here's another one.
When these business owners need cash fast, they turn to Biz2 Credit to fund what's next. From fitness studios to medical offices and every small business in between, we've got you covered. Whether you need new equipment, funds to expand, or need money to cover unforeseen business expenses, Biz2 Credit is the trusted partner for your small business funding needs. Scan the code on your screen now or go to biz2credit.com to apply. Biz2 Credit, funding what's next.
Biz2 Credit did a really interesting thing in that creative that you saw there, which is this gigantic CTA that was persistent through most of the advertisement. And it was effective. So we actually have metrics related to this. They came in 70% under their target CPA goal for that campaign. So it worked out quite well for them. One thing to quickly touch on with regards to this is I get asked the question a lot of like, do I need to put a QR code on my screen to kind of understand the performance of my campaign? Considering everything we just talked about with regards to how attribution actually works on Mountain's platform, obviously the answer is no. You got pixels on your website and big device graph to do all this reconciliation for you. But you can do this. Really, the reason to do a CTA in a CTV ad really could be if you really want to control the user journey. So if you have an ad and a very particular promotion and you want to drive people to, maybe it's a sign-up flow with a promotional offer sort of baked in through some UTM tags. And in that case, it makes sense to kind of put a QR code there where all that stuff is already rigged into the URL and people just scan it, go to the website, and go on their way. In that case, it makes sense to put a CTA. So it's not a bad thing to do, but it's not a mandatory thing to do either to kind of assess the performance of your creative. The other thing to kind of consider here too is the target audience that Biz2 Credit had here was actually first-party data. So I'm not going to sit here and explain to a room of really smart marketers how retargeting works, but that's what they were doing. They used their first-party data to target their CTV ads, and so it's something we do too. For our ABM programs, for example, and I know everyone here is doing some semblance of ABM. For me, when I'm thinking of ABM as a marketing leader, I just want differentiation. Everyone's using email for ABM, and we do too. We're not above it, but I'm constantly trying to find ways to differentiate, and TV is a fantastic way to target my ABM prospects with really interesting, unique, creative. So makes sense in that case. We also retarget with ads. So if you visit Mountain's website and then watch ad-supported TV, you're very likely to start getting Mountain ads served to you. So different ways to kind of deploy the use of CTV. Here's the last ad we'll take a look at.
Is it $IT Legend 95 or Sexy IT 97? I'm just one IT guy.
Well, what would make you happy, Larry?
A password management platform. One place for all our passwords. The ability to share them instantly and securely. Something convenient that employees actually want to use it. I sound crazy.
No, just unaware. Larry, haven't you heard of Bitwarden?
Bitwarden?
I got their Teams plan for my office, and now our passwords are secure. I'm prescribing you with 1 free trial today at bitwarden.com.
Prescription for Bitwarden. So, really the point here is just a funny ad. Also, it's pretty efficient in terms of the narrative that they were telling in this case. The first 3 to 5 seconds, as we know through a lot of studies, that's where you really hook someone, and they use that to kind of create a really funny and strange kind of scenario. And it's just relatable humor. I'll just kind of leave it at that so I can wrap up here. One last point before we're completely done here, which is getting creative. How do you actually do that? Now, some of you are probably sitting on video ad creative that you already have lying around, in which case you may be able to just use that for CTV. The only consideration there is the standards of CTV specs are really high, considering that they're going to be shown on really large screens. And so you may not be able to directly upload that video ad. It may need to be upscaled in some sort of way from an editor. But generally speaking, if you have that and it's 15 or 30, you should be good to go. But a lot of you probably don't have a TV commercial lying around. And I just want to make a plug for something, but I think it's useful for you all. So Mountain acquired a company called QuickFrame a couple of years ago. QuickFrame is indispensable for a lot of B2B marketers who don't have creative agencies on call. It's a marketplace of creative professionals, editors, motion graphics artists, directors, photographers, anything you need for a video, they can do it. And so maybe you have a bunch of video assets you need stitched together into a commercial, or maybe you want a full-blown TV commercial shoot. All of that stuff can be done with QuickFrame. We use it for things beyond TV commercials, like explainer videos and things like that. And it's highly, highly efficient, very quick, and very affordable. So I'm just nakedly selling something to you, but I think but I'm only doing it because as a B2B marketer, it's tremendously useful to get something produced quickly and really affordably. So just sorry for the direct sale there. As we're wrapping up here, just a couple of points I want to reiterate as we're done here. First is no more confusion. CTV absolutely is an opportunity for B2B marketers. It's accountable. I heard a question the other day where someone was like, how do I sell this to my executive that it's a good idea? The same way you sell any other performance marketing channel. You go live, you test it, you get performance, and you scale that budget up. Or if you don't, you leave. There's no contract involved with it. But that's how you sell it. You just kind of let it prove itself out. Mountain has incrementality reporting baked into it too, which may be useful to you. So that's one big consideration. We talked about creative. That doesn't really need to be an obstacle either. You could either take existing assets or use something like QuickFrame. So consider that. And then finally, just attribution, non-issue. That stuff is going to look and feel like the attribution that you get from other performance marketing channels. And you can get tremendous influence on your pipeline from doing something like this as well. So with that, thank you very much. Appreciate it. See ya.